Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling Afghanistan specifically, how it's organized. We want to give you a real shortcut to understanding its structure.
Exactly. We're
Yeah,
talking about the 34 provinces and how they group together into these different zones.
right. These distinct administrative and geographical zones.
And knowing this, it's more than just trivia. It really helps build a kind of mental map, to grasp the diversity landscapes, economy, culture. It's foundational.
Okay, so 34 provinces, that's quite a few. How do these zones work? Is it just geography or is there more to it? Where do we start?
It's definitely geography, but also history, culture, sometimes strategy. Let's kick off up north, the North Zone.
The North Zone, okay.
Yeah, you've got provinces like Faryab there. Mazar-e Sharif is the key city. It's mostly the northern plains.
Plains, so flatter land, agriculture.
Exactly. Historically, it's been Afghanistan's breadbasket, fertile land.
Mhm.
And that, has shaped its politics, its stability, even who lives there for, well, centuries.
Interesting. So stability linked to the land itself. What about moving east from there? Does it change much?
Oh, dramatically. You climb pretty quickly into the northeast zone. Think Baghlan, Kunduz, Badakhshan.
Badakhshan, that sounds mountainous.
Very. You're heading towards the Pamir Range. Huge mountains. Beautiful, yes, but also a real challenge.
How so?
Well, infrastructure is tough to build. Getting around is hard. It impacts development security, just connecting communities, really.
Right. So geography having a very direct impact.
Yeah.
And continuing east towards the border.
Okay, now we're in the East Zone. Provinces like Nuristan, Nangarhar, Jalalabad's the big city there.
And that's right up against Pakistan.
Exactly. That border is key. It's not just a line on the map, it's major trade routes, but also deep cultural and tribal connections that flow right across. It shapes the whole feel of the region.
Okay, let's shift. What about the absolute middle, the heart of the country?
That'd be the Central Zone. Kabul, the capital, is smack in the middle of it, surrounded by the Central Highlands.
So the capital, but also highlands.
Yes. Provinces like Parwan, Logar, Daikundi are here too. It's the administrative center, obviously, but those highlands, they make transport tricky. Yet being central, it's become this incredible melting pot of cultures from all over Afghanistan.
A melting pot despite the difficult terrain. Interesting. Where next from the center?
Let's head south. The South Zone. This is where you find Helmand, Kandahar.
Okay, Helmand and Kandahar. What defines this area?
It's much more arid. Think deserts, rugged landscapes. Kandahar itself is hugely important historically and strategically. A major city, a crossroads for trade heading south.
Got it. And right next door, I often hear the southeast mentioned separately. Paktika coast.
That's right, the Southeast Zone. People often call these the tribal areas.
Tribal areas, what does that mean in practice?
It means that traditional ways of governing, through elders, jirgas, customs, they hold a lot of weight, sometimes even more than the central government, practically speaking. And again, very strong ties, family ties, reaching right into Pakistan. It's another layer of how things work.
Okay, so that's south and southeast, swinging over to the west.
The West Zone. The big player here is Herat. It's absolutely the economic engine of the West. Provinces like Farah are also here.
Herat. That name comes up a lot,
Yes,
historian.
it does. Silk Road history. And that legacy continues. It's a major commercial hub, often looking westward for trade, for cultural links, gives it a distinct flavor.
Right. Now, you mentioned earlier some provinces can sort of fit multiple places. There was something about the Central West Zone.
Ah, yes, exactly. That's a really good point. There's the Central West Zone with Ghazni as a key province.
Okay.
But what's interesting is that some provinces, like Bamiyan or Daikundi, we mentioned them in the Central Zone, sometimes they're also classed as Central West.
So the lines aren't perfectly rigid.
Not always. And that fluidity, it isn't just a map quirk. It can reflect things like shifting conflict dynamics, population movements, or just the sheer difficulty of administering remote areas. It affects everything, aid, security planning, you name it.
Wow. Okay. So pulling all these pieces together, north, northeast, east, central, south, southeast, west, central, west. What's the big takeaway from this zone-by-zone deep dive?
I think the big takeaway is just how incredibly diverse Afghanistan is. Geographically, culturally, you go from deserts to massive mountains to fertile plains. These zones, these divisions, they reflect that diversity.
And they're practical tools.
Yeah, practical for governing, for understanding what makes each region unique, for planning development or security. They're not just lines, they're, well, functional.
So in just a few minutes, you've hopefully gotten a much clearer, more nuanced picture of how Afghanistan is structured. Knowing this, you can see how it starts to change how you might think about news or information coming out of the country.
Absolutely. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Think about how these boundaries, both administrative and geographical, do more than just define territory. How do they actually shape the day-to-day lives, the opportunities, maybe even the identities of the people living within them? That's the deeper question, isn't it?